Hello and welcome to the Fighting Spirit Podcast. As always, I'm Jason. I'm here to bring us the fight picks for Holloway versus Kattar taking place on the 16th. We have a lot of fights coming up here. On the 20th, we have Chiesa versus Magny, and then on the 23rd, we have Poirier versus McGregor. So I'm not sure how I'm going to do this quite yet. I don't know if I'm going to merge the retrospectives with the fight picks or if we're going to do individual ones just to break up the shows. There'll be more shows that way, but haven't totally decided. Either way, we got to get into the fight picks for this week. It's going to be a crazy card. We got the return of Ponzinibbio. We have Max Holloway going up, a former great 145 pounds going up against a rising star in Calvin Kattar. It's going to be a firefight. Let's talk about it. Here's the show. All right, we're back in business here, and let's kick it off with the main event. So we are going to be having Max Holloway take on Calvin Kattar. And honestly, in this kind of fight here, I feel like no matter who I pick, I could be wrong, okay? I am leaning with Holloway with the numbers, right? His legacy, obviously. And then, you cannot overlook the kind of streak that Calvin Kattar is on right now, having great wins over Dan Ige, Jeremy Stephens. Let's not beat around the bush here. He did really, honestly, probably should have beaten Magomed Sharapov because there was a 3-round main event and he was turning the tide. It's besides the point here. He's getting a big opportunity now in fighting Max Holloway, and again, I said it's really hard to make a call on this one, but I'm going to go with, the established product in Max Holloway. He has proven to really defeat almost everybody at this point. Obviously, he's had trouble against guys like Volkanovski, and he did lose to Poirier at 155 pounds, but I think he's going to be able to deal with Kattar's boxing. We've seen great boxing out of Holloway, and we know that Kattar doesn't really have much of a takedown game, which is what I think allowed Volkanovski to honestly get the better of Holloway, having that takedown game in his back pocket and really kind of screwing with Holloway's boxing affair. So I think if they stay on the feet, Holloway will have the edge. One thing to keep in mind, though, is Holloway typically has a reach advantage, and he's coming in at a reach disadvantage against Kattar. He has no size advantage at either, coming in at both 5'11" for each guy. Now, the one thing I like for Holloway, though, his striking output is superior, his striking accuracy is superior, and his defense is superior on the statistics, which lead me to believe that he could potentially outbox Kattar. Now, in terms of power, we've seen Kattar land some amazing counters. Obviously, he got the knockout in Jeremy Stephens. That was great. The win over Ige. Did he actually knock out Ige? Let's go back and review that one real quick. No, he did not actually knock him out. I didn't think he did, but I wanted to double check. He ended up just winning the 5-round main event via unanimous decision. So, he's got the power. He could do it, but I still like Holloway here, even though he's riding some losses. He really just has that one win against Frankie Edgar recently. Besides that, we got to go all the way back to the Brian Ortega fight for him to get a win, because we had that Poirier loss at 155 pounds and back-to-back in Volkanovski. I think he finds his rhythm again. I think he returns to form, and I think he gets a win on Saturday. What that holds for the future of Holloway, though, is really inconclusive. Nobody wants to do a Holloway trilogy, I think, right now. I think you're more likely to honestly get Henry Cejudo against Volkanovski if it was between him and Holloway, just because of the triple C effect, right? The 3-time champion or 3-weight class champion. Whereas Kattar, if Kattar wins, his momentum's in the right direction. Magomed Sharapov doesn't really fight that much. He's not that active. Obviously, you got Ortega out there too, who is challenging, I think, Volkanovski for the title. But this is a great fight and definitely sets up a number one contender type situation. So if Kattar can come away with a W, it certainly will put him on that trajectory. Anyways, though, I'm sticking with Holloway, but like I said, I could go back and forth on this one all day, and ultimately, I feel like my pick is wrong no matter who I pick in this one. It's just we got to come down on one. So we're going with the Hawaiian, Holloway. All right, we got a Legends fight coming up in the next one. We have Carlos Condit, the natural-born killer, taking on Matt the Immortal Brown. This is a fight that, honestly, I thought had happened previously. I don't know how these guys didn't clash at some point in time, but I don't believe they ever have, and it's finally coming to fruition. And in this one here, I do have Carlos Condit. Now, he's coming off his first win in a dog's age. This guy had lost 5 fights in a row dating back to 2016. Finally gets a win over Court McGee, and I think he'll be able to stick with the winning ways against Matt Brown, who's also, let's face facts, had some struggles at times. Yes, he did, get a couple wins over Diego Sanchez and Ben Saunders, but got knocked out to Miguel Baeza. Before that was riding 3 stoppages in a row, 2 via knockout, 1 via submission. Cerrone, Ellenberger, and Maia, who a lot of those guys are in the caliber of Carlos Condit. Let's not forget, Carlos Condit was a contender for the title at 170 pounds, fought GSP, did lose to him, was a title holder. I think a lot of people overlook Carlos Condit because of, his recent poor outings, but the guy still has it, and he was able to regain a lot of his confidence in his last fight, and I think it's going to carry over to this one against a guy that is a well-known product. He's not fighting a prospect. He's not having to prove himself against a young, hungry fighter. He's fighting a guy that is a vet, that is going to go in there and, give him, I think, what Carlos expects. And so with that one, I'm going with the IQ of the natural-born killer. I'm going with Condit in this one. All right, this next one here, it may have been a minute for Santiago Ponzinibbio, but this guy was making a statement at welterweight up until he was badly injured. He has not had a fight in, I guess, what must be at least 2 years now. Yeah, November 17, 2018. So a little over 2 years at this point for Ponzinibbio, but this guy hasn't lost since 2015. Before that, he's beat Neil Magny, he beat Mike Perry, Gunnar Nelson, Nordine Talib. This guy was on a wrecking machine-like path, and he was going to clash for the title with whoever had it there at the time. Probably a Woodley, I guess, would have been the champion back in 2018. He was on that collision course, and the injuries sidelined him, and now he finds himself down in the rankings and fighting an up-and-comer, a prospect, well, maybe a little more than a prospect, but an up-and-comer, a mid-tier guy right now, still proving himself, of course, but a Jingliang Zhang. And in this one here, I like, even though Jingliang Li, even though he looks like a very good, competent fighter here, I got to side with Ponzinibbio. Could there be ring rust? Absolutely. But this guy has proven himself time and again in Ponzinibbio to come out and really perform when the cards are down. I think that he's going to be able to make a return to form. He could potentially make another run at the title as long as he stays healthy. This guy is a natural-born killer like Carlos Condit. This guy has crazy fight IQ. He knows when to go for the jugular. He has that killing instinct, and I think we're going to see it on display. He's going to be able, I think, to make a huge statement against Lee, and I could see a first-round knockout to make an entrance back into the UFC after this long hiatus. I'm sure he's hungry. I'm sure he's angry at what's happened to him, and I think he's going to take it out on Li Yang's face. I'm going with Ponzinibbio. All right, this next one here, I think, is basically an open and shut case. We have Joaquin Buckley, who has just looked fire right now, coming off great wins over Kasanganay, his last win against Wright, going up against a guy who has struggled a lot lately, the Italian Alessio Di Circo. And, honestly, I want to, maybe stay off the hype train that is on Joaquin right now. However, the guy just looks so good. His knockout against Kasanganay, his big knockout against Jordan Wright early on in the second round. This guy is proving he has killer instinct, and except for his loss to Kevin Holland, who, let's face facts, also is a murderer right now, the guy just looks too good to stop, and I don't think it's going to be Di Circo short of something fluky. Circo has, basically lost a number of fights, Murdioff, Cummings, Holland himself as well, and I see him making it 4, and he's probably on the chopping block. So we'll see what happens here, but I can't see the reason Buckley won't be able to continue his winning ways and pick up a solid win and probably a fight bonus in this one. We're sticking with Joaquin Buckley. All right, this next one here, not too familiar with these guys, if I'm honest. We're going to have Punale Soriano and Dusko Todorovic. Both guys are only 2 fights each in the UFC, but looking solid nevertheless. So we have the Hawaiian Soriano, just, looking good coming out of Extreme Couture, picking up a great win on the Dana White Contender Series, and has a win over Oscar Pichota. Before that, he does have some fights outside the more regional promotions, but he's still only 7-0. This guy is basically an unknown product, going up against Todorovic, who's similar, again, unknown product. He is 10-0, 6 knockouts and 3 submissions over his 10 wins, has the fight IQ, has wins over Quan Townsend in the Dana White Contender Series. So similar backgrounds for these guys, so it does make it hard with the numbers perspective to make a call, but I am going to go with the Hawaiian here. We picked Holloway earlier. The numbers, of course, back this up. We're not just going with the Hawaiians, but I think that we're going to be going to the new island here. I think we're going to have it for Soriano. I think he has proven himself to be, a well-rounded mixed martial artist, trains at a solid gym, looks like he's in the prime of his career at 28 years of age, and I think it's going to be a great fight, a very competitive fight, and I think, honestly, Soriano comes away in this one. It looks like he has the good takedown skills if he has to go there to slow down some of the volume of Todorovic, and I think that's how he gets his pathway to victory. We're sticking with Soriano in this one. All right, this next one here is very difficult to call, and I'm not going to blow smoke up your ass. I'm not trying to make up why necessarily. The numbers just come out really, really close, and it's Phil Hawes taking on Nasruddin Imavov. And honestly, I have Imavov in this one, but my heart has Hawes. This guy's fought all over. He's a journeyman. The only thing we can say is that he has struggled, Hawes it is, when it has come to big fights. He lost in the Dana White Contender Series, lost in the World Series of Fighting. And he has bounced back when he came back to the Dana White Contender Series. Got a quick knockout, got another knockout when he came into the UFC in just 18 seconds. So he's looked on fire, but Imavov has, proven to be a little more consistent. Hasn't lost since 2017. Granted, it was in smaller promotions, but he did come into the UFC back only October 3rd and picked up a unanimous decision victory. So I think he's going to be able to get it done here. But Hawes is explosive. He has power. He has 7 knockouts over his 9 wins, more than Imavov has with just the 3. So it is going to be tough, but I'm going with the young French product, Nasruddin Imavov. All right, this next one here is going to have some big boys at heavyweight. We have Carlos Felipe taking on Justin Tafa. And in this one here, it's tough because Tafa is just 4-1. Felipe has twice as many fights under his belt. And I'm going to stick with the more experienced fighter. I do expect this to be pretty much just a stand-up fight. Both these guys have fought De Castro, though, and Felipe won, whereas Tafa lost. So, take that all with a grain of salt as well. But I think Felipe's had good power, proven himself to be just a little bit better. I think more patient with his striking, with his win over De Castro, whereas Tafa was caught with that giant swinging shot. So even though if it does connect, you win, it does show that you throw caution to the wind and maybe take more chances than you can take at heavyweight. So that being said, I'm going to stick here with the experience in MMA, a little bit better striking output, basically on par for defense and no real takedowns to speak of. So I see this one standing, and it's honestly a bit of a crapshoot. This is really a 50-50. You pick him. I'm going to stick with Felipe in this one. He's coming off of, they're both coming off of wins. But I'm going to stick with the guy that did end up beating De Castro. So we're sticking with Carlos Felipe. All right, this next one here, we're going to have German David Zawada taking on Ramzan Emeev. And in this one here, it's close, but I'm going to stick with the German here, Zawada. His striking looks a bit better, having much better striking output. However, though, keep it in the back pocket, we have Emeev with some really good takedowns. It's just that we've seen good submission game out of Zawada, which could nullify that takedown game and really steal it away from him from wanting to go for it. We look at the records, though, fairly similar, 17-4 for Zawada. Looking over at Emeev, he's at 19-4. Both competent fighters, 11 knockouts, though, for Zawada versus more submissions, though, for Emeev, even though we've seen more submissions attempted by Zawada so far in the UFC. Bear in mind, Emeev did lose to Anthony Rocco Martin, and we did see some struggling out of Zawada early on in his UFC career, only picking up a win recently against Akbar Nurmagomedov. So it's honestly a tough fight to call. A lot of these are, except for the ones on the top of the card, in my opinion. But I like Zawada here. I think he's a little bit better. I think he's going to be able to prove that he can hang with some really solid Russian talent, and so I'm going to go with the German in this one. All right, just 2 more here before we get to the debuts. We have Sarah Morris taking on Vanessa Mello. And in this one here, I like Sarah Morris just a little bit more. She has a little bit better submission game, a little bit better takedowns. And despite some losses, quite a few of them, we're dealing with the same kind of situation for Vanessa Mello. Vanessa Mello has 3 losses in a row. Basically have a fighter that is 1-4 over the last 5 in Morris. So really just, there's not a lot of quality here, I guess is what I'm saying. I think that the takedown game, though, is there for Morris. I think the submission game could be there, and she's at least proven to win under the big lights. So, hey, take that with a grain of salt. Has a small reach advantage, 2 inches over Mello, and I think it is possible that Cheesecake Sarah Morris is able to get another victory here. But honestly, if either one of these fighters lose, I honestly think that they're on the chopping block. Also, keep in mind, Morris, less than a 500 record, so she's definitely on the chopping block. Mello, 10-8. Let's face facts, she's on the chopping block too. So we'll see how things play out, but I am sticking with Sarah Morris. All right, and the last one here, you have Jacob Kilborn going up against Austin Lingo. And this one here, it's kind of tough. Both these guys are coming off of losses back-to-back in the case of Kilborn. So, let's just cut it down the middle, and I'm going to stick with Austin Lingo in this one. Granted, I did pick him against Zalal, so the guy looks good on paper, at least thus far. We'll see how things play out. He does at least have a takedown thus far in his one UFC fight, so assuming he can carry some of that over in the Kilborn fight, I think he'll be able to nullify Kilborn, but neither one of these guys have amazing striking output or amazing defense at this point in their careers. Not a lot of good statistical information on these guys, so this one is probably worth skipping, but I'm going to stick with Lingo anyway, so he'll be the official pick. And then in the last one here, we have a debut. We have Wu Yanan taking on Jocelyn Edwards. And in this one here, I like Edwards right now. Waiting for a little more information to come in, but I like Edwards right now. I think she's the slightly better fighter. This one is a little bit subject to change. I just want to get some last bits of information. We have seen Juan basically struggle a little bit thus far in the UFC, and so I'm going to stick with the up-and-comer in Edwards in this one. We had losses to Mizuki and Mizani, both for Wu, so I'm not sure she's able to perform under the big lights. Thus, we're going to stick with Edwards. All right, let's go over them one more time. So we are going to have Holloway, Condit, Ponzinibbio, Buckley, Todorovic, Imavov. I believe Tom Breese's fight is canceled. Let's just look at that one real quick. Yeah, so I'm seeing here about a couple hours ago, Omari Akhmedov was supposed to fight Tom Breese. This fight could still be on. We had Breese going into that one. Obviously, he's not going to fight Akhmedov if it's going to be COVID related. So we'll maybe drop that one on the Patreon. I'm sure Breese will definitely wants to get in there, and honestly, they're going to be there for quite a while. So if he doesn't get it in this week, he'll get it in on the 20th or the 23rd. So stay tuned for Tom Breese. I do actually want to see that guy come back and fight. But then we have Felipe Grundy is also not fighting. Mike Grundy, his fight is off as well. Let's take a look at that one. Yeah, that Mike Grundy versus Nick Lentz card, that was moved to UFC 257. So we'll see what that one. Oh, Mike Grundy is actually out. So Nick Lentz is moving to UFC 257 with Mosfar Ivalov. So stay tuned for that one. We'll have that one crunched up. It's just the guys that left on my win list, and I noticed I wanted to read them here. Anyways, to round things out, we have Zawada, Morris, and Lengo. So let's do that one more time. Holloway, Condit, Ponzinibbio, Buckley, Todorovic, Imavov, Felipe, with Zawada, Morris, and Lengo to really, actually, finally round things out. All right, so you know the drill. Please get in touch with the Fighting Spirit Podcast at fightingspiritpodcast@gmail.com. You also can get in touch with me on Twitter at MMAFightPicks01, and feel free to also head on over to the Patreon and support the show at a dollar amount that makes the most sense to you. We're going to be right back to it, giving out our best fight picks, throwing them up there. So if you want to get part of that, you want to get part of that community and support the show because you love what I do here, I do appreciate it, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. So like I said, we're going to be coming at this fast and furious. So these fights take place Saturday. We'll do a quick turnaround. We'll do probably a retrospective and some fight. I'm probably going to combine them, keep the number of postings low. I'm sure you guys rather see combined show rather than an individual one. So that show, let's see, I'm thinking we'll do a regular Tuesday release for the I'm probably going to have to do a Monday. Yeah, I'm going to do a Monday release for the Wednesday card, or even Sunday. I might have to crunch that early. Then after Wednesday, we're probably shooting Thursday, Friday for the Saturday card. So Thursday, Friday, I'm going to try for Thursday. It really depends on how the week goes for me as well, as far as recording the podcast. Usually the fights are pretty well recorded on my end, and then doing the podcast takes a little bit of time. Just got to clear some part of the schedule. So we'll see how things play out. I'll definitely have all the picks for you. They'll definitely come out at least a day in advance. I always like to shoot for more than one, though, at least 2 to 3. But with having 3 fights in such a close span of time, it does make it hard to do that. So just understand that we'll get them to you in a timely fashion as always, and we'll keep bringing you the best picks in the biz. We're looking hopefully to a good 2021. This is going to kick off our season of picks, and I'm hoping to keep bringing you really solid fight picks to kick off the new year. So let's make Fight Island one to remember, and until I speak with you again next time, happy fight picking.